My half-sister accompanied me on a spring outing when we encountered a man on the verge of death. I urged her not to meddle in others' affairs, but her saintly nature took over, and she insisted on bringing him home. Later, debt collectors came looking for him, and my half-sister demanded I use my personal savings to pay off his debts. You're the legitimate daughter anyway. Father gives you plenty of silver each month. It's fine to give it all to him. I firmly refused, warning her to stay away from the gambler. But the gambler harbored evil intentions. He sneaked into my room in the dead of night, stole my money, defiled me, and finally strangled me to death. Hearing the commotion, my half-sister not only kept silent but looked at the gambler with pity. I know you didn't mean it. It's all my sister's fault, she's so stingy and arrogant. Afterwards, she even helped the gambler dispose of my body. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on that day when my half-sister and I went out for a spring outing. Sister, look how badly that man is hurt. Shouldn't we take him home? Realizing I'd been reborn, I immediately grabbed her hand and said earnestly, take him home? Would you rather let him be beaten to death? Dear sister, mother just gave you over 1,000 taels of silver. Why not send him to an inn and give him some of your savings? She stared at me in astonishment, as if she didn't recognize me. Though she was a concubine's daughter, I treated her as my own flesh and blood. I scolded the servants for disrespecting her, stood up for her when wealthy young ladies bullied her, and even begged father to bring her identical gifts when he returned from business trips. Yet afterward, she'd tell those people, I know you meant no harm. I won't blame you, it's just my sister being petty. She reaped the praise, while I ended up looking like the villain. This time, she assumed I'd again yield to her kindness and grant her request. She never expected me to speak like this. Seeing her silence, I feigned surprise. Sister, you wouldn't be disagreeing, would you? Father dotes on you, and mother cherishes you too. They've both prepared dowries for you. With over 1,000 taels of silver, couldn't you just buy a few less hairpins? Lu Shuangshuang hurriedly protested, Sister, don't say such things. Where would I get that much silver? I cut her off. I know father dotes on you, yet he secretly gave you these things because he feels awkward about me being the legitimate eldest daughter. Rest assured, give him the silver, I won't breathe a word. You wouldn't be refusing him because he's dirty and ragged, would you? Too stingy to part with that little silver? Lu Shuangshuang was rendered speechless by my words, stammering only, no, I pushed her toward the man, hurry up. I'll keep watch, no one will notice. If you don't take him now, it'll be too late if someone discovers him. With no other choice, she gritted her teeth, shoved him into the carriage, and rode off. The same scene had played out in my past life. Back then, I'd warned Lu Shuangshuang, don't shelter a stranger like this. Look at him, his body is covered in fatal wounds from beatings. Though he looks disheveled and filthy, he doesn't seem like a hard-working laborer. His palms are calloused, probably from years of gambling dice and racking up huge debts. Gamblers have no humanity. How can you be sure saving him won't harm others? Besides, an unmarried woman harboring a man, if discovered, it would ruin her reputation. Yet she wept and sniffled, even kneeling to beg me. Reluctantly, I let it slide, thinking her kindness was misplaced, and allowed her to bring him home. Later, debt collectors came for him. Lu Shuangshuang demanded I use my secret savings to pay off his debts. I refused outright, urging her to stay away from that gambler. But the gambler coveted my wealth. Not only did he sneak into my room at midnight to steal silver, he even. As for Lu Shuangshuang, she graciously forgave the gambler. Together, they dragged my corpse to the mass grave, leaving it for wild dogs to devour. When my parents found me, only bleached bones and tattered clothes remained to identify me. Yet she knelt before my parents, weeping and confessing her guilt. She said she should have stopped me from rescuing that mysterious stranger. She even hid him in our home, forbidding me to reveal his presence. She never imagined such a tragedy would unfold. My mother, overcome with grief, fell gravely ill and ultimately passed away. With only her daughter left, my father showered her with all his affection. The young mistress was elevated to the position of primary wife. From then on, she and the young mistress occupied the room my mother and I had shared, wearing my mother's jewelry and mine. In the end, she colluded with the scholar betrothed to me, poisoning my father to death and seizing the family fortune to enjoy wealth and luxury. Truthfully, it wasn't until after my death in my previous life that I learned the man Lu Shuangshuang had saved was indeed a gambler. Only she never knew. Her sole purpose from the start was to frame me. I remember clearly, less than 7 days after my death, my soul drifting in the air, witnessing her burying herself in the arms of Zhang Ming, the scholar betrothed to me. Her face was twisted with contempt. I planned to bring that man into the mansion, then frame her for adultery. Her personal maid was already in my pocket. Once her reputation was ruined, how could the Lu family keep her as their legitimate daughter? Once I took her place, you and I could be together without question. Little did I know she'd be defiled and murdered before I could act. Saved me the trouble. As for that gambler, it turned out he'd committed crimes more than once. First, he sold every valuable possession in his home to gamble. Then he sold his wife and daughter. Finally, with nothing left to sell, he turned to murder and robbery. Men were brutally murdered for their wealth, women were raped, robbed, and silenced. All corpses were disposed of in the most savage ways. What enraged me most was that after Lu Shuangshuang disposed of my body and let him go, he went on to rape and murder a 10-year-old girl. Simply because the child had taken a few copper coins to buy medicine for her gravely ill mother, he saw her and was overcome by evil intent. Thinking of this, my fury reached its peak. This time, I won't just protect myself and my family, I'll protect that poor little girl too. I'll send these beasts straight to the king of hell. I'll see how she plans to scheme against me step by step. After Lu Shuangshuang took the man away, I immediately started walking. My personal maid Taoxi saw me leaving and hurriedly asked, "Young miss, shouldn't we wait for second young miss before leaving?" I hadn't forgotten that one who slipped through the net. So I pressed my hand to my forehead, feigning discomfort. "I'd like to wait, but my head is spinning." "Taoxi, you'd better help me back to rest first." Taoxi had no choice but to comply. Once she helped me back, I used my discomfort as an excuse to lie down and rest. My mother, who always doted on me, rushed over the moment she heard I was unwell. Grasping her hand, I pleaded urgently, "Mother, I had a dreadful dream. Thieves broke in and killed me. Mother, please, let's hire the strongest guards with our silver to protect us." Seeing me on the verge of tears, she readily agreed, "Yes, yes, yes. Don't be afraid, Jiao Jiao. I'll have the matron send someone to find them right away." After she left, I pretended to fall asleep again. Then I found a jeweled hairpin and secretly slipped it into Taoxi's room. To deal with an unfaithful maid, no elaborate schemes were needed. All it took was proof she'd stolen her mistress's belongings to warrant a beating and being sold off through the slave broker. When my mother returned with a group of highly skilled guards, I was weeping bitterly. "Mother, the hairpin you gave me for my coming-of-age ceremony is missing. It was my most treasured possession. What are we to do?" My mother comforted me while sending servants to search everywhere. Soon, a maid's voice reported, "Madam, the young mistress's jeweled hairpin has been found." It was in Taoxi's room. My mother flew into a rage, slapping Taoxi hard across the face. "You wretched creature! How dare you covet your mistress's jewels? Guards! Drag her out and give her 10 lashes. Then send her to the slave dealer to be sold." Taoxi turned ashen with fear, kneeling to beg for mercy. "Mistress, spare my life. I didn't take it. Miss, please believe me. I truly didn't." My mother waved her hand dismissively, "Drag her out." Soon, Taoxi's screams echoed through the courtyard. But this was only the beginning. Taoxi was beaten and sold off, serving as a warning to others. As for Lu Shuangshuang, she didn't return until dusk. When I heard the commotion, my mother was berating her in the courtyard. "How could a young lady come home so late? Do you know what people will think if word gets out? They'll say the Lu family failed to raise their daughters properly." When I arrived, Lu Shuangshuang knelt there, head bowed, silent. Yet I clearly saw the hatred in her eyes directed at my mother. So all this time, her submissive demeanor had merely masked the resentment burning beneath. And I'd foolishly thought her timid and easily intimidated. Seeing Mother still pressing her, I quickly interjected, "Mother, it's not Sister's fault. It's all my doing." I got greedy and insisted Sister trek all the way to the east side of town to buy those pumpkin cakes from Ma Gu's. After speaking, I stepped forward to help Lu Shuangxuang up. Was there a long line? Did they sell out just as she reached the counter? With me providing the escape route, Lu Shuangxuang naturally took it. She immediately nodded obediently, carefully concealing the hatred that had flickered in her eyes moments before. Seeing my intervention, Mother had little left to say. She simply waved her hand dismissively and walked away. But at that moment, I keenly noticed the red marks on Lu Shuangxuang's neck. Leaning closer, I could even detect an unusual scent on her. It seemed that despite his severe injuries, the gambler had still managed to overpower her. A truly vicious person, even crippled, would still scheme to harm others. I feigned ignorance and asked reproachfully, "Hurry up and tell me what happened. Why did it take so long?" Lu Shuangxuang hurriedly explained, "And nothing. I just had to ask the doctor to examine that man, which delayed us a bit. Sister, that man's injuries are still quite severe. He told me you're his savior and wants to thank you in person. Why don't you visit him tomorrow?" I sneered coldly. Even now, Lu Shuangxuang still tried to lure me into the wolf's den. I replied, "I'm afraid that won't work. Mother asked me to finish some embroidery. She'll take it to the Su family's mistress tomorrow. Besides, it was you who did the good deed and saved him." Lu Shuangxuang's face turned pale. She said no more, instead excusing herself with a claim of feeling unwell and returning to her own room. Watching her deliberately concealed yet slightly unsteady gait confirmed my suspicions. As for the gambler wanting to thank me in person, that was surely just an excuse. If I hadn't misjudged, that gambler must have taken Lu Shuangxuang captive and made her lure me there. Had Lu Shuangxuang truly possessed a conscience, she would never have consented to such a scheme. Alas, she was never one of pure heart. Naturally, having been rebuffed today, I suspected these two would not rest easy. The very next day, I dispatched men to investigate the gambler's past dealings. Additionally, I had them locate the young girl who had been murdered in my previous life. In my past life, I only learned after the gambler's arrest that the little girl was also a tragic figure. Her family relied on selling medicinal herbs for a living. Her father had fallen to his death while gathering herbs on the mountain 2 years prior, leaving only her and her frail, sickly mother behind. As for the dozen or so copper coins that were stolen, they were the earnings from the herbs she had gathered. I still vividly recall how my soul trembled when it followed the investigating constable to see the little girl's body. She was so small and frail, lying naked, her body covered in horrific wounds. Such a tiny bundle, raped, brutally murdered, then stuffed into the very basket she depended on for survival and sunk into the icy depths. Here I was, at her age, with no worries about food or clothing, while she lost her life without ever tasting a single day of happiness. So when the maid from the mansion found her, I was so overcome I couldn't speak. I just held her tightly, tears streaming down my face. Thankfully, it wasn't too late. Thankfully, she was still alive and well. Seemingly startled by my state, she stood there blankly, letting me hold her tightly. I wiped my tears and smiled at her. "Don't be afraid. Seeing you just reminded me of myself when I was little. Would you like to stay with me and your mother? You'd only need to stay by my side, serve tea, and fetch water." Her eyes suddenly sparkled with a bright smile. "Miss, do you mean to say you want me to stay here as a maid?" I paused, then nodded. "Yes. Rest assured, I'll pay for your mother's treatment." Over the next few days, Lia Shuangxuang grew increasingly secretive. Not only did she come and go at odd hours, but her complexion worsened noticeably. As for the jeweled hairpins and ornaments adorning her head, they were visibly dwindling by the day. I knew it, that gambler had latched onto her. I deliberately turned a blind eye, yet somehow she cornered me in my room. "Sister, the chrysanthemums are blooming outside the city walls. Many young ladies and gentlemen are going to admire them. Why don't we join the fun?" I'd always loved a lively gathering. Under normal circumstances, I'd have agreed without hesitation. But the Lu Shuangxuang before me now looked evasive and anxious. Clearly, the chrysanthemum viewing was merely an excuse, luring me out was her true intent. Therefore, I firmly refused. We admire these chrysanthemums every year. It holds no interest for me. I shan't go. No sooner had the words left my mouth than I saw Zhang Ming peering in cautiously, his eyes practically glued to Lu Shuangshuang. They were openly exchanging flirtatious glances, yet in my past life, I hadn't noticed a thing. I'd always believed Zhang Ming was exactly what he pretended to be, a gentle, bookish scholar incapable of lifting a finger. Who would have thought he'd been secretly conspiring with my half-sister all along? Catching my gaze, Zhang Ming quickly averted his eyes and bowed slightly. Miss Lu, Shuangshuang means well. Though chrysanthemums bloom every year, the experience of viewing them changes with one's state of mind. Why not join us? Shuangshuang? He was betrothed to me, yet he addressed another woman so intimately. And to suggest I accompany them? I nearly laughed in anger. Had I not witnessed it firsthand after my death, my past self would never have believed Zhang Ming could become entangled with Lu Shuangshuang. My betrothal to Zhang Ming was arranged by our parents. Back then, our families were on good terms, well-matched in status, and so the marriage was promised. Who could have foreseen that a few years later, Uncle Zhang would pass away suddenly from illness? His grief-stricken wife soon followed him in death. Zhang Ming claimed he was merely a scholar, ignorant of business matters. Within a few years, the Zhang family fell into ruin. My father learned of this later and personally went to their home to bring Zhang Ming to ours, promising the original betrothal still stood. Yet Zhang Ming solemnly declared he would wait until he passed the imperial examinations before marrying me. I truly believed he was an ambitious scholar, only to discover later that studying was merely a pretense. He hid in his room, feasting and carousing, spending his days with Lu Shuangshuang. When the Zhangs passed away, he squandered their vast fortune. Looking back now, these two truly deserve each other. It's all my fault. In my past life, my parents shielded me too well. I was naive and foolish, which is why they could scheme against me and force me to a miserable death. But it doesn't matter. This lifetime, I am no longer that foolish Lu Jiaojiao. I will make them pay for their crimes with blood. You too should go instead. I turned to Lu Shuangshuang. Since Shuangshuang wishes to go, Mr. Zhang, perhaps you could kindly accompany my sister to admire these chrysanthemums. Lu Shuangshuang's eyes lit up, and she murmured coyly, Sister, that might not be appropriate. What's inappropriate about it? I've always said what's mine is yours. Besides, Mr. Zhang is a man of integrity who studies the classics. With him by your side, I'll have peace of mind. That day, admiring the chrysanthemums, the two didn't return until the sun had set. Unlike before, Zhang Ming came straight to me as soon as he returned. Seeing me, he spoke, Miss Lu, Shuangshuang went out and rescued a man who was badly injured. As her sister, why aren't you helping her? She's just a delicate woman. What if something happens to her? I didn't rush to reply. Instead, I slowly picked up the teacup the maid handed me and took a gentle sip. You know she's a weak woman, but don't you realize I'm a weak woman too? Mr. Zhang, I'm quite curious, is it me or my sister who is betrothed to you? He was momentarily speechless, caught off guard by my words. But he quickly recovered, forcing a smile as he replied, My apologies. I was simply overcome with urgency. How about this? Since you saved the man, perhaps I could accompany you tomorrow to meet the injured person. I heard from Shuangshuang that the person is eager to express gratitude in person. I feigned surprise. Didn't my sister tell you? She was the one who saved him. That day, she insisted on bringing the person back. I reminded her about the propriety between men and women and left first. So even if it's about gratitude, all the credit belongs to Shuangshuang. Zhang Ming opened his mouth, his face turning grim. Finally, he bowed slightly and withdrew. Clearly, Lu Shuangshuang hadn't relayed the truth to him. I wondered what Zhang Ming would do next. After he left, I quietly followed behind him. He glanced around cautiously, satisfied no one was watching, and slipped into Lu Shuangshuang's room. Once inside, the voices shifted to just the two of them. Shuangshuang, why didn't you tell me? You insisted on bringing that man back. Do you realize this could ruin your reputation? Then came Lu Shuangshuang's voice, full of hurt, but he was so pitiful. If I were as heartless as you, sister, wouldn't I be needlessly taking a life? Zhang Ming sighed. You're absolutely right. You remain as kind-hearted as ever, my beloved. But what will you do now? Lu Shuangshuang spoke again. Zhang Lang, I'm afraid I've gotten myself into trouble this time. That man is a gambler. He told me that if I don't find a way to get him some silver, he'll spread rumors everywhere, saying I committed indecent acts with him. Zhang Ming's voice trembled with anger. Such an ungrateful wretch. I'll report him to the authorities immediately. No. Lu Shuangshuang stopped him. Weren't we just lamenting how to deal with her? That gambler is the perfect pawn. Besides, if you really report him, it won't just ruin my mood, it'll enrage him. If he does something reckless, it'll be her own fault for being careless. This way is safer. The humiliation Lu Jiajiao inflicted on me, I'll make her repay double. My heart skipped a beat. What exactly was the shame Lu Shuangshuang claimed I had brought upon her? Was it begging father to buy her equally precious hairpins, treating her like a real sister? Before I could ponder further, footsteps drew near. I hurriedly stepped aside just as Zhang Ming hurried past. Early the next morning, Lu Shuangshuang came to pay her respects again. Though I knew her intentions, I feigned surprise. Sister, didn't I tell you before? There's no need for such formalities between us. You needn't pay your respects. Lu Shuangshuang slipped her arm around mine without a hint of emotion and called out affectionately, Dear sister, yesterday when I went out with Zhang Lang, we met the man we saved that day. His injuries haven't fully healed yet, and he has no silver on him. He can only survive by begging. Sister, father and mother provide for all your needs. You save silver but never spend it. Why not give it to him so he can find a place to settle? I found it amusing. How had I never noticed her shamelessness in my previous life? Even after I'd refused her, she still had the nerve to target me. I refused again. Sister, you have a kind heart. You should give him your silver. As for mine, it's mine to spend as I please. Lu Shuangshuang grew flustered. Sister, you weren't always like this. You used to be beautiful and kind-hearted, everyone praised you. Weren't you the one everyone praised? I cut her off. Back then, I wasn't kind-hearted, I was utterly foolish. How else could I have let Lu Shuangshuang bring that man home, helped cover for her, and hid him in the woodshed? Only to end up defiled, tortured, and left with no whole body to bury. Did Lu Shuangshuang dare claim she had nothing to do with this humiliation? Stumped by my retort, Lu Shuangshuang could only stare at me pitifully, tears welling up. Finally, she knelt before me. Sister, I truly had no choice. That man was a gambler. After I put him up at the inn, he clung to me. Even when his wounds were nearly healed, he refused to leave. He said he was pitiful and asked me for silver. If I didn't give it. I deliberately raised my voice. Exactly. He's just a poor soul, penniless. What's wrong with him asking you for a little silver? You're the second young miss of the Lu family, living in the utmost luxury. Scrape together a bit, wouldn't that be enough to feed him for a year? You've gone this far, since you saved him, you ought to see it through. Or do you want everyone to know your kindness is fake? My barrage of questions left Lu Shuangshuang speechless. She opened her mouth repeatedly but couldn't utter a word, though her eyes seemed ready to devour me whole. I knew gamblers were the least trustworthy and most greedy. Lu Shuangshuang ignored my warnings and saved him. Plus, she was dressed in such fine clothes, clearly from a wealthy family. Faced with such a cash cow, how could she not try to fleece him for all he was worth? After leaving my room, it wasn't long before Lu Shuangshuang slipped out the back door. She wandered around until she reached a dilapidated temple outside the city walls. The moment she stepped inside, the gambler yanked her toward him and began groping her. Though repulsed to the point of nausea, Lu Shuangshuang gritted her teeth and endured it. The gambler snarled, "Where's the silver? You said you'd bring it today. How come I've searched you high and low and found not a single copper coin?" Terrified, Lu Shuangshuang hurriedly explained, "The silver. The silver is all with my sister. She's the legitimate eldest daughter, she has plenty of silver. But that wretched woman won't part with a single coin. Rest assured, I'll find a way to coax it out of her. The gambler threatened again, you'd better deliver on your promise. Otherwise, I'll spill the beans about us and demand silver from your father. Of course, all this came from the man I sent to follow her. The thought that Lu Shuangshuang still used me as a shield at this point made me sick. Had she not been so greedy, had she reported the gambler to the authorities when he first threatened her, she wouldn't have sunk this low. But alas, her heart was twisted. Even after being defiled by that gambler, she still craved a good reputation. She refused to report it to the authorities and instead tried to drag me into the abyss with her. Since that was the case, I would gladly play along with her charade. The 15th day arrived quickly. My mother had always been devoted to Buddhism. Whenever she visited the temple, she would take me along. This time, however, was different. Though I brought my maidservant along, I also had the guards I'd hired earlier follow us. My mother didn't understand why, so I made up an excuse, saying the Buddha had appeared to me in a dream that night, warning me to be extra cautious these days. My mother doted on me, not only granting my request but also adding several more servants skilled in martial arts to our escort. Lu Shuangshuang, seeing my thorough preparations, gritted her teeth inwardly. Yet she maintained a smile and feigned ignorance, asking, "Sister, we're merely going to the temple to burn incense and pray for blessings. Why bring so many people? Others might see and mock our extravagant display." I laughed aloud. How could an extravagant display be mocked? It would only be envied, wouldn't it? I knew her words masked frustration. Today, with so many guards, that gambler had no chance to strike. The temple was a serene Buddhist sanctuary. After the abbot invited us for tea, my mother and I visited the restroom. Little did I expect Lu Shuangshuang, seemingly cornered, would pull out her hairpin and block my path inside. I looked at Lu Shuangshuang. I'd anticipated the scene, yet I played along with her act. "What are you doing, little sister?" "What am I doing?" "I want your worthless life." Lu Shuangshuang gritted her teeth. "I begged you countless times to go see that person, but you stubbornly refused. If you had gone, I wouldn't have ended up like this. So it's all your fault." I watched her silently, surprised she'd lost her composure so quickly. But the worsening bruises on her neck and wrists spoke volumes about what she'd endured. Still, I feigned ignorance. "Sister, what are you talking about? How have I harmed you? You have the finest clothes, food, and everything." "Shut up!" Lu Shuangshuang roared. "Top tier? It's all charity from you. Shut your disgusting mouth. I'm prettier and smarter than you, those things are mine by right, not handouts. Why didn't you let me bring him back that day? Why didn't you just die?" As she lunged at me, I judged the timing right and sidestepped. Sure enough, the moment I dodged, the maid who'd rushed over kicked her square in the chest. Before she could scramble back up, 2 maids pinned her to the ground. She only knew I'd asked mother to hire guards, unaware that among the maids I'd secretly replaced, some were trained in martial arts. My mother arrived swiftly upon hearing the commotion. After learning what had transpired, she delivered a sharp slap across Lu Shuangshuang's face. She then ordered the girl confined to the woodshed, forbidding servants from bringing her even a single grain of rice. When I visited her in the shed, she had been starved for a full day and night, leaning weakly against the wall, too exhausted to move. My attendant Zhang Ming pleaded with me. "Miss Lu, Shuangshuang was merely momentarily confused. She's already endured the beating and punishment. Please intercede with the mistress to release her." It was clear the two truly shared a deep affection, yet I refused. Yesterday, my sister truly sought to take my life. If I intercede for her release, what if she attempts to harm me again? Hearing this, Lu Shuangshuang burst into laughter. "I told you, you're a hypocrite. If you had the guts, you'd have killed me already. And let me tell you another secret, that Zhang young master you're so obsessed with? He and I have already pledged our lives to each other. You're nothing but the eldest daughter, nothing more." Zhang Ming panicked and hurried to explain. "Miss Lu, please don't listen to the second Mrs. Nonsense. Shuangshuang, I'm your future brother-in-law. How could you joke with your sister like this? Apologize to her immediately." Instead of anger, I smiled. Watching their little performance, I remarked calmly, "You have a point. Unfortunately, I was born the apple of my parents' eyes. What I was born with, you could never obtain no matter how hard you tried. Humiliated by my mockery, Lu Shuangshuang flew into a rage, shrieking and screaming. Unfazed, I turned and walked away. As night fell, a maid came to report that Lu Shuangshuang had persuaded Zhang Ming to release her. The two had packed their belongings and were preparing to flee. The maid asked, "Miss, shall I go catch that adulterous pair now?" I raised a hand to stop her. No need. After setting this trap for so long, it's time to close the net. Let them go. You just keep following them. Soon after, the maid sent to follow them informed me that Lu Shuangshuang had taken Zhang Ming to a dilapidated temple outside the city. I knew Lu Shuangshuang had reached a dead end by this point. Fleeing to that gambler was her last resort. What I hadn't anticipated was that even at this final stage, she would still take Zhang Ming with her. After confirming this information, I reported the disappearance to the magistrate's office at first light the next day, claiming my family member was missing. The reason was simple: only relatives could file such reports with the authorities. As for those previously persecuted, mostly isolated, frail men and women, their disappearances would go unnoticed. To apprehend them all, I needed the magistrate's office's resources. Additionally, I sought out Constable Wang, who had solved cases in my previous life, and recounted the entire sequence of events. Constable Wang had indeed long suspected the gambler but lacked evidence. Upon hearing my account, he prepared to set out and apprehend him. I stopped him. "Officer Wang, arresting him now may not secure a conviction. If that gambler commits another crime, we can seize him in the act and convict him outright." Constable Wang narrowed his eyes, looking troubled. Another crime? But he's hiding in that dilapidated temple now. He'll likely wait for the right moment to strike again. I am that moment. I suggested using a decoy. After all, Lu Shuangshuang and Zhang Ming were penniless. 3 people without money gathering together? Who knows what schemes they might concoct. Clearly, I was their prime target. Only after my repeated assurances did Constable Wang agree to let me play the decoy. Sure enough, after feigning an outing and deliberately letting myself get separated, 2 figures burst from the shadows. One of them was none other than my dear half-sister. They pressed knives to my throat, their voices hushed with menace, not a sound. "Come with us quietly, or we'll kill you right now." The maidservants following me in secret were frantic, but I signaled them to stay calm. I knew that if their sole aim was to take my life, Lu Shuangshuang wouldn't have gone to such lengths to lure me into following them. They quickly brought me back to the dilapidated temple. They bound me tightly with ropes. I feigned surprise and asked Lu Shuangshuang, "Sister, why are you doing this to me?" Lu Shuangshuang kicked me in frustration. "Why?" "Because I want you dead. I intended to dispose of you immediately, but now I feel letting you die easily would be too lenient. I'll make you endure every conceivable torment, trapped between life and death." The gambler grew impatient at this point. "You damn woman, what's with all this droning? Didn't you say she had silver? Is that all she's got, just this trinket?" Seeing the gambler, Lu Shuangshuang visibly lost some of her edge and hurriedly spoke up. "Her trinkets are nothing. You should know her family has plenty of silver. If you send word now demanding a ransom, they'll pay whatever you ask." The gambler's eyes lit up at her words. He rubbed his hands together gleefully. "Who knew you had some brains after all? Not bad, not bad. Rest assured, once I get the silver, I'll never bother you again." Zhang Ming, meeting my intense stare, timidly asked, "Once we get the silver, will you really let her go?" Lu Shuangshuang snorted coldly, "Are you stupid? Releasing her would cut off our livelihood. When he pays up, we take her life. But with this beauty right here, before we kill her, don't you two want to enjoy her properly first? Once you've had your fill, we'll chop off her limbs, slice out her tongue, and watch her writhe like a maggot. Wouldn't that be far more entertaining?" Her words seemed to awaken these 2 beasts. The gambler moved toward me first, shouting, "I go first! I go first!" This pampered young miss from a wealthy family is something else, such smooth, delicate skin. With that, he reached toward my face. The time I bought was enough to cut through the ropes with my dagger. Seeing the gambler advance, I gripped the blade and swung it at him. The gambler reacted swiftly, leaping backward, but my blade still gouged a deep gash in his arm. This move undoubtedly enraged him. He cursed and lunged at me again. But before he could close the distance, an arrow whistled through the air. The gambler, possessing some skill, dodged the arrow. Seizing the moment, I retreated and hid among the constables who had already stormed in. Constable Wang brandished his broadsword, bellowing at the gambler, "You scoundrel! Surrender at once!" Seeing no escape, the gambler seized a dagger and pressed it against Lu Shuangshuang's lower back. "Nobody move! One more step and I'll kill her. She's Boss Lu's daughter. If she dies, you'll have a lot to answer for." Zhang Ming tried to slip away but was kicked down by the gambler. Lying on the ground, he sobbed tearfully at me, "Miss Lu, save me. I was forced into this. It's all her fault. She wanted to harm you and take your place. She lured me here. I had no choice." Lu Shuangshuang never imagined Zhang Ming would completely absolve himself of blame. Seizing a moment when the gambler wasn't looking, she lunged forward and began punching and kicking Zhang Ming. "You bastard! When did I ever force you? You're the one who abandoned your principles for a woman. You said that slut wasn't as beautiful or interesting as me. You said you wanted to marry me. You're the one who followed me here." Zhang Ming wasn't one to back down. Fed up with the beating, he grabbed Lu Shuangshuang's hair and slapped her twice across the face. Everyone was stunned by the scene. Before they could react, the gambler snapped impatiently, "Shut up, you nagging bitch. You're driving me crazy." With that, he plunged a knife into Lu Shuangshuang's abdomen. She collapsed instantly. Zhang Ming froze in shock, and the constables seized the chaos to subdue the gambler completely. But I walked calmly toward Lu Shuangshuang, blood pouring from her mouth. Seeing me, she seemed to struggle to rise, but her wounds were too severe, and she could only lie on the ground. "Lu Jiao, it's all your fault. If you hadn't been so scheming, deliberately luring me close to that gambler, I wouldn't have ended up like this. Why? Why isn't it you who's dead?" I lifted my foot and crushed her hand without mercy, then spoke slowly, "Isn't this outcome entirely your own doing? I treated you kindly, yet instead of gratitude, you repaid my kindness with betrayal, even conspiring with gamblers to kill me. Lu Shuangshuang, yesterday's actions bring today's consequences. This is what you deserve." Her pupils contracted sharply, as if recalling something. She murmured, "You knew. You knew all along. I hate you." With those final 3 words, her last breath left her. The gambler was eventually captured. Constable Wang told me the man was inherently vicious. In his final confession, he admitted to having brutally murdered 18 people. The case shook the imperial court. The emperor personally issued an edict sentencing him to death by Ling Qi. As for Zhang Ming, my father and mother learned of all he had done. They had him severely beaten and cast out. Zhang Ming had a leg broken and was forced to survive by begging. My mother declared that as long as she drew breath, that scoundrel would live out his days in hunger and cold. Little mother, traumatized by Lu Shuangshuang's death, descended into madness. She eventually ran away and drowned in the river. That night, Xiao Tao, whom I had rescued, awoke from a nightmare. Watching her shiver violently, I wrapped my cloak around her and held her close. Xiao Tao sobbed, telling me she'd had a terrifying dream. In it, a vicious man tried to assault her. She fought back desperately, but couldn't resist. Not only was she brutally beaten, but in the end, he snapped her neck. The little girl wept like a fountain, trembling uncontrollably. I patted her back over and over, "It's okay, it's okay. It was just a dream. That evil spirit can't harm anyone anymore." My parents loved me, but they never gave up on finding me a good husband. Yet several matchmaking attempts ended in failure. The matchmaker claimed my reputation was ruined because I'd been used as bait, and no one dared to marry me. Hearing this, my mother held me close, lamenting my bitter fate. But I pouted at her, "If I don't marry, I don't marry. Even if forced into marriage, I'd only be mocked. Mother, I won't marry. Raise me as a son instead. I can still uphold the Lu family." 5 years later, the Liu family's business spread across the land, and under my father's guidance, I stood on my own 2 feet. What they didn't know was that I had deliberately spread the rumor about being used as bait. My ambition lies in commerce. I shall never marry. Men in this world are fickle, only the silver in one's hand is real. The end.